Hello and welcome to this episode of Hampton Roads Business Live. I'm Rory Graham, your host, and today it's my pleasure to have with us David McDonald from the Mediation Center of Hampton Roads. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Roy, for having me.
Yeah, mediation, that is something, the way the world's acting nowadays, I bet your business is booming.
Well, it certainly took a long time for mediation to become a household word, so to speak, and as we're trying to let our business grow, we had to educate people about mediation and then try to drive them to the mediation center. So we have a kind of a dual-edged sword as far as marketing mediation. So it's actually taken a while. We've been in business for 20 years and we're still getting there, actually.
Well, why don't we start with you giving us an overview of what your center does?
Sure. Well, primarily, we focus on family mediation. Couples that are going through divorce, they're looking for an alternative to fighting in court. They realize that money that could be better spent on their children's college education and their own vacations would be better spent going through a process of working it out, communicating, helping. Where I help them with options, where I can work with both parties versus having to have an attorney on each side, which may prolong the process. So it helps to speed up the process. So what we're doing is helping them to dot all the I's and cross all the T's and reaching an agreement. But we also do other types of mediation as well, not just family, but that's kind of where the focus has been over the years.
Okay, so someone that has, let's say, they're contemplating a divorce or they're in the midst of trying to get one, then they would come to you to work out the differences between themselves and you, instead of having the attorneys just make demands on each side. I mean, it's more of a conversation.
Right, it's more of a collaborative effort, where both sides, and kind of the focus of mediation is for both sides' interests and needs to be met. There's certain demands that they might come in, but if they're satisfied that their needs are being met, then you can reach an agreement. And we have a pretty good batting average. About 90% or so of folks that come into mediation are going to reach an agreement. So
that's a good batting average.
It's good batting average. So I always say if they could sit in the same room together, odds are we're going to get an agreement. And sometimes it is just in one session, where we're sitting down and some are going to have their act together, where they've already pretty much decided what they want, and there might just be some other issues, whether it be spousal support or child support, where they need a little bit more assistance, or they might even need some legal advice on that, or they might need a financial counselor to help them determine on what their needs really are going to be. So sometimes we will work with other professionals to help them make
that was going to be my next question, is do you work with other professionals?
We do, and even though we're an alternative to litigation, certainly from an ethical standpoint, we're going to give parties the opportunity to have any agreement reviewed by an attorney prior to signing it. Although there are some folks that come in that just are anti-attorney, and they may have seen their siblings or their neighbors or their coworkers that spent every last dime and 401k money that they had on litigating and really didn't get a whole lot over that 3-year process. Where they're coming in and I know this might sound overly optimistic, but in one session, maybe two, they're able to reach an agreement, sign it, and move forward. So.
Okay, so that sounds like a lot of good reasons to give mediation a shot. And I guess worst case scenario, they could always go the other route if it didn't work.
They can, and it's funny because sometimes we get clients that may have already spent thousands of dollars, and then they come to mediation, and I might ask them, well, do you have an agreement? Is it has an attorney drafted an agreement? Well, no. And I said, well, what were your expenses for? And I said, well, continuing cases, getting stuff on the docket that never happened, and just kind of the frustration with the whole thing dragging on, and not to mention just the turmoil that has on their family, their children, and being in limbo for that amount of time, and worrying about what's going to happen next. So just the finality of being able to reach an agreement and do it sooner is a big relief for a lot of people.
Okay, let me ask you about business disputes, because we talked about family a little bit, but you work with business disputes as well.
Yeah, we do. I've actually worked a number of years ago with the Tidewater Builders Association, for example, and I served as an arbitrator and a mediator for construction, new construction cases particularly, where the homeowners might have had some problems with the construction. So I get the contractor and the homeowner together to resolve these issues, and again, have a very good batting average on that. I also do cases, employment cases too, for the U.S. Postal Service. So I handle a number of employee grievances, and I've been doing that for probably about since the program began, like 14 years ago. And I always like to use the scenario to say how this works. Of course, you know, if you think of the Postal Service, you think of the term going postal.
I was trying not to say that.
Well, but actually, you know, that term came about in the 90s,
Yeah.
and so the Postal Service said, hey, we need to do something about this, you know, and because there were a number of postal employees that were going postal, so they initiated a mediation program across the country, and that started in 1999, and to today, you know, 14 years later, I can't think of, and I hope you don't know of any, but I don't know of one postal employee that's gone postal. You know, so you know, just getting the parties together to talk, you know, and come to some resolution, or at least just a chance to talk, is so critical. You know, so it's been a very, very successful program. So do that type of, you know, business related, and we'll do some landlord-tenant cases, you know, now and then, contract disputes between partners, you know, maybe a partnership like a restaurant that's unwinding, and there's a couple of partners and they're needing to try to figure out how to unwind that partnership.
So anytime there's a relationship issue, basically, that's where you can step in as long as the parties are willing to talk about it.
Exactly, and I think, again, that's particularly when there is an ongoing relationship. You know, if you think about a case where there's an employee-employer, you spend a lot of time at work. In fact, you spend more time at work than you do at home with your wife. So having a good relationship in the workplace is important. But you know, even if when couples divorce, they have children, you know, that ongoing relationship, you know, by able to resolve it through good communication, and you know, rather than this litigation, which is just going to polarize the parties, you know, we're able to get them communicating and work together, so that, you know, whether it's graduations, whether it's grandchildren, you know, that it's been shown statistically that they're going to have a better relationship down the road. You know, so any type of ongoing relationship, you know, that's where mediation is critical. Not to say that it can be used in other cases like personal injury disputes, where you really don't have that ongoing relationship. You know, you hit somebody on the highway and you're trying to resolve that. But even that case, you know, mediation can be effective even where there isn't an ongoing relationship too.
Okay.
But particularly where there is an ongoing.
All right, and not only can it be cheaper, but you mentioned that it could be faster.
Exactly. I mean, for my couples, when they're coming in, for example, I'm sitting down with them maybe an hour, 2 hours, and I always say, I know that doesn't sound to be, you know, feasible, but indeed, you know, with 2 hours, even with children, you know, we're able to ask all the questions, take the notes, and I'm turning the agreement around to them within 24 hours, because I like to do it while it's fresh on my mind. So I'm emailing it to them, so I'm getting input back from, you know, from the husband and wife, the mother and father, and then make the adjustments and getting back. I mean, I've had some cases where, you know, within a week's period of time, you know, that they've signed the agreement and moved on, which kind of amazes me, but it just, you know, that's the way some people are. And then some might take a little bit longer, like when spousal support's involved, you know, where they really need to contemplate their decision on that, because it's, you know, it is a buying, you know, these contracts are just like buying a house or a lease, you know, they're important contracts. So, you know, whether they need to get legal advice or whether they just need to get some type of professional advice to make sure to make a good decision, because I'm all about that.
Now, on the family things, the divorce stuff and all, that's filed with the court?
Yes, you know, once they've met, like for divorces, for example, if 6 months, if they don't have children, 12 months, they got to be separated for 12 months. So once they sign the contract, it's a binding, enforceable contract. And then once they've been separated, you know, according to Virginia statute for 12 months, then they can file for divorce, and then this agreement becomes a court order once the judge signs the final decree of divorce. So it's and then they don't even have to go to court, which is the beauty of it. It could just be filed by an attorney, and neither party has to go to court. So it's just great time and cost saving.
Okay. And now let's talk about the parenting classes that you do, and that takes in co-parenting too.
Right, right.
So can you tell us about that? Because you told me on the phone that you've done that for 18 years.
Right, yeah, we've been, we do get some people that volunteer to take the class, but for the most part, they've been ordered by either the juvenile court or the circuit court because they're going through some type of contested custody, child support, divorce case. So they're required to take a class on the effects of their conflict on the children, and that's the focus. So for the, like I said, last 18 years, it's a 4-hour class, and they get information on how this affects their children, and then how to reduce the conflict that the children are exposed to. So we teach conflict resolution skills for the parents, for example. We teach communication skills. We teach them how to better exchange the children and the importance of being good role models for their children. So that's kind of the in a way, it's actually a very therapeutic class because we have roundtable discussion, and so there's custodial parents and non-custodial parents, there's moms and dads, so they get to learn from one another. Now we don't have the same set of parents in there, or otherwise it would be your Maury Povich, Jerry Springer show. So they're able to talk freely. And it's it's therapeutic, but they gather a lot of information from one another.
You see a lot of light bulbs going on?
Oh yeah. And you always hope that the other parent that's not in the class, that they're taking a similar class, if not with me, somewhere else, to so that light bulb will go off in their heads as well. Because I'll often tell them, these are some pages that maybe anonymously from our curriculum you should give to the other parent. One of those "I told you so."
Mm-hmm. Right. So well, that must be awful rewarding for you to help people at some of their darkest times. Because I know a lot of these times can be pretty dark when they're going through something like a divorce or something like that.
Well, it's interesting too because they're mandated to take the class, and there's a fee, of course, attached to that, and of course they grumble about having to pay the fee. But when they're going out, they're shaking my hand and thanking me, and so that you're right. That does make you feel good that you did a good service. And same with mediation too. I mean, we certainly have gotten lots of praise over the years from clients, and that's word of mouth advertising. That's very important. That's how we get a lot of people.
Right. And now the conflict resolution class that you teach, that I could see it would be employers or managers or something taking that to see how to better resolve employee conflicts. Or
yeah, I would say you'd like to think in most cases the employers are being proactive that they're doing this, but usually there's been some incident. There's been something to happen which says, we need to do something here. We need to provide some training so that when a conflict does arise here on our workplace, our employees have better skills on how to deal with that conflict. So that's essentially what we have, this 8-step conflict resolution process, which certainly the first step is dealing with anger. We don't want to call it an anger management class, but that's part of it, is dealing with your anger and cooling off. And then we teach a lot of good communication skills and conflict resolution skills.
So let me ask you, because I didn't get a chance to in the beginning. I wanted to, but we got sidetracked there. What is your background?
Well,
how did you get in this?
Well, actually, it was interesting. I went to the University of Pittsburgh and had a self-design major in consumer protection. So I worked for Ralph Nader for a summer. He was my hero back in the 70s, and actually was an intern and worked for him. And then I worked for the Consumer Protection Office in Virginia Beach for 17 years as a mediator/investigator, investigating consumer fraud. But it evolved to really mediation, where I went in at first as a consumer advocate, but discovered there were 2 sides to each story, maybe more. And so I was able to bring both sides together, whether it be car dealers, landlords, tenants, buyers of cars, contractors, homeowners, and mediate. And then that's when mediation, that household word was kind of picking up. So I figured, well, I'll start my own business, and so I been doing this now for 20 years, as well with my own business. But I actually moved from Pittsburgh down here to go to Old Dominion, got my master's in public administration, and with an emphasis in conflict resolution. That was my emphasis. So I just kind of evolved from there. I've taught mediation classes and conflict resolution, but now basically family and business type.
Well, you certainly seem to enjoy what you do.
I do, and it's a real sense. Even back from my consumer protection days, and now evolving to mediation. It's a real sense of being able to help people, help them with options, help them to save money, help them to reduce their anxiety. So it is rewarding in that case.
All right, well, maybe we ought to send you to D.C. They could use some conflict resolution.
Yeah, I'll say.
I don't know if there's any hope for that.
Well, I mean, that's another, of course, a big area where mediation, whether it be John Kerry and in the State Department and using mediation, as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything that I haven't talked about that you would like to mention?
I don't think so, Roy. I guess just the experience I think is important. Having over 20 years of experience in doing mediation, because one of the things that is important when parties come in, I mean, they haven't been in this position before. I mean, yes, there are some people that are repeat customers. I have had a few that have divorced a few times, and we get some repeats, but most often they're in this situation.
Do you offer a coupon for a discount on their next divorce?
We should. No, we hope that it's going to work next time, although statistics show that it doesn't. But anyway, so I think just knowing what they're going through first off, that experience, and also the fact that there are other options. There's ways of resolving. There's other things that people have tried, and you might suggest this way. Just because again they may be basing their ideas on bad advice, bad experiences that other people have had. So you try to give them some other way.
Don't you find too that a lot of times people are too close to the problem? They can't see the forest for the trees. I mean, sometimes they're so involved in it they can't actually think logically.
And it's interesting from an ethical standpoint. I have to be careful not to render an opinion. I'm not an arbitrator. I mean, I serve as an arbitrator, but in serving as a mediator, I'm helping them to come to their own decision. But just today, though, this case that's been kind of dragging on for a couple weeks, and it's very involved. Lots of property, lots of spousal support, lots of issues, and I finally just said so many words that. This is a really good deal, and I said to the wife in this situation, I said, if your attorney can guarantee a better deal in court, get it in writing. Mm-hmm. So I'm just hoping to get her to think and to really get some good legal advice. Are you really going to do this for me, or are you doing it to generate fees? So just to get her to think, what the deal is here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you have an issue that you think you could benefit from mediation, and may want to consider that before calling an attorney, I don't know. But if you do, then mediation might be for you. And if, you can contact David McDonald at the Mediation Center of Hampton Roads. The contact information is at the end of this video, and it's on this page. And I thank you for coming in and sharing that with us. That was very interesting. Didn't know anything about mediation. But I wish you a lot of success in your business, and you seem to certainly be having that now.
Good. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.